where we're going to be exploring and learning how open payments are being redefined by technology. I'd like everybody to get ready to join us and together explore how we can unlock the future of payments by leveraging the Interledger Foundation, its experts, and obviously the protocol that they've built. We don't pretend this to be just another webinar, but rather, we want this to be an exclusive path to innovation, and to learn more about what the Interledger Foundation is building, and is going to be making available to practitioners, to developers, to technologists in Mexico later this year in November through the Interledger Hackathon. My name is Andres Fontao. I am CEO, co-founder of Fino Summit, and I'm thrilled to be your host this afternoon. At Fino Summit, we firmly and strongly believe in creating spaces where ideas are transformed into opportunities. And today's session, as I said, is exactly that. We want to explore the potential of open payments and how the Interledger Protocol is reshaping the way the world connects financially today. This is how our session today is going to be flowing. I am very shortly going to pass the mic to Alex Lakatos, the CTO of Interledger Foundation, who's going to be giving really a general overview of the Interledger Foundation and who they are, what they do, as a lead-in to their annual hackathon. And the theme of this year's hackathon, the Internet of Opportunity. He'll then be joined with our other esteemed panelists, where we want to go deeper into the hackathon challenge for this year and talk a little bit about, amongst themselves, talk a little bit about what open payments are. And for the last 20 minutes or so, we love to get questions from our audience, And so we'll be opening the floor for an Ask Me Anything session, where we want to hear from you, what you're interested in knowing as you prepare to participate in this upcoming hackathon in November in Mexico City. A quick introduction of our panelists. As I said, Alex Lakatos, the CTO at Interledger Foundation. Alex has spent the last 11 years building the open web, focusing on lowering barriers to entry in the Interledger ecosystem. He's a true advocate for developers and for open standards. I'm sure I'm not doing any justice to his career, or to his experience, or to his knowledge. And we'll hear a little more about him just in a minute. Marian Villa, who's joining us from Medellin, Colombia today. Marian is a developer advocate at the Interledger Foundation. She's also senior full stack designer, Google developer expert in web development, and a global ambassador for women tech makers. Welcome, Marian. And lastly, but not least importantly, Max Kurapov, I hope I'm getting that pronunciation right, technical lead at the Interledger Foundation. Max builds open source tools and APIs for developers and institutions to connect to the Interledger network, bringing deep expertise in payment technologies. I'm honored, Fino Summit is honored, our community is honored for all of you to be here today. As I said, I'm sure I've done no justice whatsoever to your expertise, and I'm excited to hear more from everybody. And with that, I will be passing the baton on to Alex. Welcome.
Thank you. I just realized that bio on our website hasn't been changed since I joined the Interledger Foundation. So it's been more than 11 years, but I wanna think I'm young again.
You look very young.
Yeah. Sadly, there's some gray beard starting to appear. But that is enough about me. I feel like we're here to talk about open payments more than anything else, so I'm gonna dive right in. The Interledger Foundation was set up 5 years ago as a nonprofit with a mission for financial inclusion. We really care about people not only getting access to something that looks like a bank account or a digital wallet, but also to people being able to use other financial products beyond the basic ones. So the way we are trying to achieve our mission is by stewarding a protocol called the Interledger Protocol that was developed in, I'm going to mess up my history, 2015, maybe 2016. But the idea for Interledger is today on the internet, I can send an email to anyone just by having an email address. It doesn't matter if they're on Google or Yahoo or any other service. I can't exactly do that with payments today. So Andres, if I wanted to, like you're organizing a very good webinar here. If I wanted to give you $10 for it, I would really struggle. We'd have to spend at least 5 minutes talking about how your account information looks in whatever part of the world you are. I'm gonna guess Mexico. Maybe if I'm lucky, I actually can pay you in Mexico, but that's only because I have bank accounts on 4 continents. But we'd have to negotiate a bit about how to send you money, where to send you money. Whereas if I was going to send you an email, we could do that in 2 seconds flat. You'd give me your email address. So the Interledger Protocol tries to solve this by behaving or by making money behave more like the internet. It's based on TCP/IP, and if you're a developer, you've probably heard about TCP/IP back in school. And the reason why you never worry about it is because it stays at the foundation of what we call the internet today. So Interledger is designed to be just that, a way for banks, digital wallets, basically accounting ledgers, to talk to each other. Now, Interledger, because of the way we've had to build the network, works with regulated financial institutions. And while technically you could get programmatic access and write your own money packets and send them in the Interledger network, technically that's very possible. Practically, no financial institution in the world is going to give you access to directly make payments through their infrastructure. So while the underlying digital wallets and banks use Interledger, the way they are giving people access to the benefits of Interledger, to the power of Interledger, it's through an API layer called Open Payments, hence why we're talking about Open Payments today. And Open Payments is just what it says on the label. It allows you to make payments out of anyone's account with their consent without having to be a fintech, without having to be any sort of regulated entity, because all of the regulation is handled by the people who know it best, which is the banks. So Open Payments allows anyone to start processing payments, to add payments into their application without having to go to a processor, without having to register with complicated entities like Stripe. If you have an account on the Interledger network, that means you can help anyone make payments on the Interledger network. That was the shortest and the sweetest I could do.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. So, as we think about that, right, I'd like to bring now Marianne and Max into the conversation, and welcome to both of you, right? I think the intention now is, let's go a little deeper into the concept of, right? Alex has just talked about open payments, 35,000 feet, right? But let's go a little deeper, understanding, right, what open payments are, right? And then, right, piggyback off that, right, to talk about the hackathon itself, okay? So here, Marianne or Max, I'd like to get your vision, right? Let's scratch the surface a little bit. Open payments, right? What does that mean?
Okay, I think the important issue to close here is revealing, like, using open payments, developers can integrate payment flows directly into their application, ensure interoperability because they can create payments or use payments across different financial service providers. So we are not trying to to replace or to add or complicate things. Is more like a solution, and interoperability is part of our values. And the final thing is like to contribute to building a more open and inclusive financial ecosystem. And that's really important for developers, closing like gaps, especially in countries like Mexico, that we are going to attend our summit and our hackathon. So we know we are creating the platform or the network to solve problems like developers face in different countries, and they have like the tools and the abilities to build amazing things that we are going to be live in the hackathon.
Max, anything you want to add around open payments?
I think open is pretty broad of a word, but I think it encapsulates a lot of things about how we envision it. So open in the sense of open to any like assets, currencies, from the perspective of being able to, you know, work with not be limited by like, you know, which part of the world you can interact with. Like Alex said, maybe I want to send money, you know, any money in the world, and I should be able to do that. But I also should be able to do that in a way that is easy for me without having to exchange like, you know, IBAN number, long IBAN numbers that are really easy to, you know, send money the wrong way, or credit card numbers or anything like this. And I think open in a sense of it's open for the people who build these tools, right? So trying to you know, build financial products that are you know, secure in a way that respects everybody's you know, users being able to provide consent to give access to different financial products, or you know, the entities exchanging the information between and sending money, and of course the developers. So right, instead of relying on, you know, I think my background is growing up in Canada, there's a lot of, let's say, maybe financial products who would use like screen scrapers or something like this, right, to access your financial information. So it's a situation where it doesn't work out for everybody in the sense that it's open for developers and the institutions who are able to provide a safe and open way for them to access information, and be able to have the developers use that in a open and, say, secure way. So yeah, trying to benefit like everybody in the ecosystem, I think, is the, I guess, encapsulation of open.
So yeah, it's interesting. As we think about payments, and we think about Mexico and Latin America, right? We can look at open, as you guys have said, more so from a technical perspective, right? The platform itself, its integration, its accessibility, and its integration, right? So that it can be leveraged and used, right, to move monies. But we should also look at it, right, from a user perspective, right? And I assume that's why Mexico and Latin America, as a continent and a region, has captured, right, the Interledger Foundation's attention, right? There's important money corridors, right, of money moving from the U.S. to Mexico, or from Europe to Colombia, you know, different regions, right? I assume, right, that's kind of one of your drivers, right, for identifying and seeking opportunities in Mexico and Latin America. And so when you talk about open, it's also just being able to bring faster, cheaper, more sustainable ways of moving money, right, for these immigrant populations back to their home countries.
So there's I mean, inclusion doesn't only happen in those parts of the world. One of the most financially unincluded part of the world is the US. And you'd never think about that when you think financial inclusion, right? And that's because there are a lot of immigrants who can't get access to financial services. I used to be an immigrant. Until last month, I used to be an immigrant, but I was an immigrant in the UK. And so 10 years ago, when I moved to the UK, I had the job, I had the visa, everything was good. I need the bank account to get paid, right? But there was a catch-22. My bank, or any bank, wouldn't be able to give me an account because I wasn't employed yet. But my employment couldn't be finalized until I had the bank account. So I had to spend about 2 days with the bank, going back and forth. And my office was just above the bank, by the way. Going back and forth with paperwork from HR and from the bank manager, trying to get a bank account. And that was, the fact that I managed to do it in 2 days is probably a record for the UK, right? And so if you think about some of those parts of the world, there is financial uninclusion or lack of inclusion. Even after I got the bank account in the UK, my credit limit was £1,000. I've been living there for probably, at this point, probably 10 years now. My credit limit has increased from the unimaginable amount of £1,000 to £3,000. And that's because I don't have enough history or records or whatever. I don't have any debt in the UK. So I can't access credit, a simple thing like a credit card, where in the US is prevalent, right? You have no limit credit. I can get credit more than 3,000. So we actually started by looking at where money is and where money moves to. So we started in the send countries, what we usually call send countries. So Canada, US, Europe, right? And we built a network there to be able to let people onboard easy and get an account, get a real bank account as easy as possible. We worked with KYC. KYC stands for Know Your Customer, and AML, anti-money laundering. So we made it so the user experience for getting access to some sort of financial product was easiest. And then we started onboarding what we call receive countries. So if you look at the corridors, Mexico is probably Mexico is probably the biggest corridor in the world. South Africa is one of the other countries on the network that we've enabled, right? So we've looked at, because when you work on pairs of two, it gets out of control easily. We kind of focused on the biggest sends and the biggest receives. And if you overlap that you have quite a bit of there's quite a lot of people you could be helping. So we've actually chosen our partners in Mexico because of the way they are set up, the belief system that they have. So if you don't know, we work with People's Clearing House, or Cámara de la Gente, which is a new clearing house that's being developed by AMUX, an association of community banks, microbanks, people who, while they are technically banks in Mexico, they don't have the technical knowledge or the resources to join Mexico's instant payment system, Pay. And so even if there are ways to, because it's one of the popular corridors, there are ways to send money from US to Mexico. The federal government has a pipe called Directo a Mexico, which allows you to send money to Mexico next day. But because it's only a few people are connected to it and it only serves a certain amount of people, yeah, if you live in Mexico City, it's easy to get money from the US, right? If you live in a little village north of Oaxaca, it's kind of hard to get money from the US same day, let alone next day. So we've worked with the communities where you can make an impact, and we're working with PCH because they serve these communities. We, I think I was with Max in Mexico a while back, and we saw one of these community banks in northern Oaxaca, about an hour away. They are a single brick and mortar institution out of a village of probably 1,000 people. 600 are members in the bank. So it's the village bank, basically. And out of those 6 people that work at the bank, one of them is the manager, the other one is the cashier, the teller, and 4 of them are agricultural experts to help you use the line of credit the bank gives you. They have nothing to do with banking and with using the money that you can actually get from the bank or the money that you have in the bank. As you can imagine, none of that says remittances, sending money from the US. So and if you want to make a transfer, so we actually saw this for ourselves. If I'm at the bank and Max is at the bank, I cannot actually send money to Max. So I have to go to the bank. I have to take money out of my account. The cashier counts cash and gives me cash. I then hand over the cash back, and then she makes a deposit in Max's account. Right? That's the way. That's the way to send money to Max. It's much easier to go to the bank with Max and hand him cash, because. So if you think about those communities, there are a lot of people who actually have moved to the US or live in the US, family members. And Amux has this interactive map where they can see this little village north of Oaxaca. The people who have emigrated, most of them are in this suburb of Detroit, right? Those people are working with the bigger banks in the US to get money from that suburb of Detroit to rural Oaxaca. You lose about, depends on how good you are with finding options, but you lose up to 18% and the money gets there 3 days later. The average transaction size is about $400, and people make one, maybe two of those transactions a month. The reason why that's the case is because it's very expensive and you can't afford the fees. So you kind of save money until you can send one big transaction home. But if home needs money now, that's kind of hard to do. In a transaction where it's $50 can mean, I don't know, can mean a lot. You can't actually send $50. Nobody will accept a $50 transaction. And $50, even for the US, is not a small amount of money, right? So we work with these parts where $50 or even $5 makes all the difference in the world. And we've made it so instead of the money taking 3 days and 18%, the money takes a second. Actually, we consider a 1 second transaction to be a slow transaction, or regular speed is 200 milliseconds. And the fees involved, really, it depends on who's involved in the money exchange, but they can be as high as 1%. Usually it's 0%. It really does depend on who does the currency conversion. The reason why it's a big it depends is because of the way Interledger works. So instead of sending a single payment of $100 through some sort of connection that cannot support $100, we split the payment into multiple smaller payments and we reconfigure them at the end. So it might be that a portion of that money got no exchange rate or no exchange fee, and a portion of that money went through something that was a bit expensive, so you got 0.25% in exchange rates. And all of this happens at the speed of technology. While open is part of what we do, everything we do is open. The protocol is open, the technology is open. Anyone who wants to adopt this interoperability layer can do so without ever having to sit down with a human at the Interledger Foundation. We've made everything self-service and everything is open and free for the world to use.
Good. So Alex and Marianne and Max, right? As we transition from, okay, so we talked about some potential use cases, right, in Mexico for the Interledger protocol, right? Let's now focus more on the hackathon itself, right? So it's coming up, it's in November. And taking these use cases into account, what are your expectations, right? What does the Interledger Foundation hope to walk away with in November after the hackathon?
So there's a couple of things that we would love out of the hackathon. I think one of the most important reasons why we do have hackathons and we support those, not only the one in November, we're actually in about a week and a bit, we're going to be again in Mexico doing student hackathons all around Mexico, so that we can train the students to give them a competitive edge for the hackathon in November, so they have a little bit of extra time with the APIs. The reason why we do hackathons is because it allows us to learn in a safe environment. So by seeing what people are trying to build at the hackathon, more importantly, trying to see where they stumble, where the user experience or where the documentation isn't what we want it to be, it allows us to improve. It also allows us to be part of the experience there and talk to people while they're trying to use our APIs. So for us, learning and making everything better for everyone is a huge part of why we do hackathons. The other ones is allows people to try out innovative payment experiences and then go demand them from traditional payments. So if you think about traditional payments, me and Marian couldn't actually, if we owed you money, we couldn't actually both pay you for the same payment. I'd have to make a payment and Marian make a payment, and then you'd have to look at the balance and be like, okay, these people both gave me $50, right? With Interledger, you can have multiple people paying into the same payment. So think about split payments or paying your utilities or splitting rent. All of that can happen with open payments. The other option is if you run a marketplace today, you're kind of forced to go get a PSP license or a payment service provider license. And that's because if Max is selling something and I'm buying, actually the money goes from me to the marketplace. The marketplace might take a cut and then the money goes to Max, right? But because the marketplace is in the middle and touches the money at any point in time, they need the financial license in order to touch that money. While what they do has nothing to do with payments, they are now a payment institution, and the marketplace business is just a side business. Whereas with Interledger, because the marketplace does not have to touch the money and the marketplace can decide how the payment flows, they can instrument my payment so that I pay 90% to Max and I pay 10% to the marketplace in a single payment. So all of that payment service provider, payment processing kind of goes out the window. The ability to be this flexible with payments doesn't really exist. So trying to get people to think how payments could be better or how payments could make their life easier is one of the other reasons we have hackathons. And we've done hackathons around the world. We've seen some very innovative use cases around payments, multiple people paying into the same payment that goes in and is split into 4 different parts at the end of it. The marketplace, the vendor, and the people building the marketplace get a cut. That's one of the things. One of the other benefits or side benefits of using Interledger today, on top of the fact that payments are innovative, is the speed at which you can do payments. Visa and MasterCard, for example, can support about 60,000 transactions per second. And that's because of the infrastructure. They've been around for a while, their infrastructure is old, and it hasn't been updated in a really long time. So you can't make a $1 payment, not because Visa, MasterCard, or payment networks don't want your money, it's because they couldn't handle that many $1 payments on the infrastructure. So they've increased the limit of the smallest payment. We, on the other hand, were built on modern technology. We kind of had to develop our own accounting database to make this work. That's super fast, and that allows us to do payments as small as the 100th part of a cent. Nobody says you should do, just because you can, you shouldn't do payments the size of the 100th part of a cent. But some people have played around with this idea a long while ago, and now you have the ability to stream payments. For example, for this webinar, we could all be paying the presenter in real time, 1 cent at a time, 1 cent per second, instead of having to pay at the beginning or at the end. All of these things, and who knows more. We really want people to sit down and think, what in a perfect world of payments, how would payments look like? How can we take advantage of this technology?
So give me an example of a feature of a product that was ideated at an Interledger hackathon, right? And that today is, has been deployed, right, onto the protocol.
I'm very happy for this question. So last year the hackathon happened in Cape Town, South Africa, right? We have a small office there. We have a lot of relationships and a lot of partnerships in South Africa. We work with the University of Cape Town and we sponsor their financial innovation hub. At the hackathon, one of the local fintechs came to the hackathon with an idea in mind. Now, it's a 24-hour hackathon. There were 4 people. They had a lot of time. When we do open payments, we have this way of authorizing payments based on GNAP, Grant Negotiation and Authorization Protocol. And usually that happens with an interactive screen. You have to log into your account and you hit accept. Everything happens through redirects. They wanted this to happen over email. So instead of you having to be on that screen and wait for your account to load and accept the payment, they said, well, what if I'm trying to pay from my phone, or what if I'm trying to pay from desktop and then my wallet is on the phone? So they wanted GNAP to have an email feature to it. So you could get the payment link on your email and the flow would continue from there. And that sounded like a great idea. And that is now reality. It was, so on top of the fact that everything we do is open, everything we do is also open source, not just open ideas or open philosophies, open source. So that meant they could contribute that idea back into the code from a hackathon idea that was cobbled together with duct tape and strings into production-ready code. It took a while. It wasn't overnight, but they were able to contribute that idea and also take it to production and help us deploy a new feature. And a lot of these hackathon participants will have feedback for us, which we will put into. We work on GitHub. We'll put the feedback we get at hackathons, at enhancements or issues or bugs in GitHub. And a curious thing happens when they see everything is, when they have the problem and they know they can fix it themselves. Most of the people who come to a hackathon have this mindset of going in and fixing it themselves. We are a small but mighty team. Max's team builds or reference implementation and open payments. I think he's got 5 people in the team right now. But if you look at GitHub, there's about 50 people contributing to that piece of software just because we allow people to do it, and they get invested at hackathons, emotionally invested.
Marian, I assume you have much more experience with hackathons on the ground in Latin America, right? Are these expectations going to be met?
I think the idea is like people really feel like their communities and try to use our technology, our open payments protocol and standards to build something that will be meaningful and change the reality. I think anyone age 18 or above is eligible to participate. So of course it needs to be physical present in Mexico City in November 8 and 9. But is not required like a specific skill level, and it's open to all the backgrounds. We have SDKs for different languages. It's open, so what they already need is an idea and the the spark to change something in their community, and bring their own laptops and chargers, and of course just to put a team together and start to hack.
Yeah. Max, how do you feel about running a hackathon in Mexico, right? Is your team going to support all these incredible ideas that are born in Mexico, right? Can they then be implemented? Are you ready? Is your team ready for
that? Yes, I like to think so. Yeah, it's always a great time. I think Alex mentioned this before. It's as much as it is exciting and hopefully like educational for people to try out technology. As much as it's educational for them, it's also educational for us. Of course, just asking how people are using the documentation, how people are using the tools. It's really, it's like everybody. It's a mutual beneficial, let's say, experience. And with that perspective, I think it will be great. And yeah, people like, I think what we want to say is just, if anything, even the slightest thing, like some text or documentation or some flow doesn't make sense, if it's brought up, then it's a wonderful moment, because then we can just have a dialogue. A person in real time using the software that we're building is great, and of course helps them to better the ecosystem, continue working on the product that they've developed, and it's always as education it is for them as it is for us. Very looking forward to it.
Good. So I want to open the floor now to questions. I know we have some participants online. Like we said, right? We want this to be interactive. We like to get questions that audience members may have. So please feel free, right, to drop your questions there in the Q&A button, right? And as we get warmed up with that, I want to ask a first question, right? And I think it's probably something that many of the participants are interested in hearing. And I'm not sure we've covered it, but can one of you please just kind of go through a very high level, right? When is the hackathon? Where is the hackathon, right? How long is it going to last, right? Kind of can you give the audience that those details, right, about the hackathon itself? And I'll let any of you answer that.
Yes. So the event is going to run for 24 hours. It will be between November 8th and 9th. The location is in Spark, Plaza Carso, in Ciudad de Mexico. And you can join us directly in interledger.org and join the hackathon. So we are able to support like all the applicants and trying to following the criteria. We have like all the documentation about eligibility, application process. And if you have like questions about how to create your team, we have a really good community and amazing community in a Slack and a Slack channel. So we can introduce other ILF members that can support you and can support your idea. Just have a good idea, the necessity to change something to apply open payments in your solution, and we will be able to help you.
Good. We have a question here. Somebody's asking, do I need to install special hardware or software to attend the hackathon?
Nobody needs special hardware, but for the software part, we do have SDKs that would help you. There are, if you go to openpayments.dev and you look at the documentation, there's a list of prerequisites in there in terms of what you'll need in order to come to the hackathon ready to hack. Don't get me wrong, you can do that on the day, but seeing as how there's going to be about 250 people getting an internet connection, you're going to have a tough time installing that. Much easier to install them at home. But that's about it. No specialized hardware or software needed other than just whatever your programming language needs, like Node.js or anything like that.
Okay. Somebody else is asking if there's any type of recognition, certificate of attendance, right, technical award and whatnot for participating.
I mean, the participants get badges. We have a badge system, and the participants get issued badges. And the winners get, I mean, on top of the fact that there's swag to go around, T-shirts, mugs, that type of thing, more than enough to go around for everyone. The winners also get very generous cash prizes. Well, cash is a bad term.
Is it paid? Is it paid using the Interledger protocol?
Honestly, here's my deal. If you have an Interledger account and I can pay you on Interledger, you'll get a little tip from me personally, because we've done this in South Africa at the time where you couldn't get an Interledger account in South Africa, and it was a massive pain to send money to South Africa, to the point where we had to change our bank in the process, because apparently in the middle of paying people, our bank said, you know what, we got kicked out of South Africa, so I had to change banks. In Mexico, it's going to be easier, but on Interledger, this never has to happen, and you can have your money on the day. If it's not on Interledger, our finance team is going to get in touch. You'll have to do the whole dance of giving us a bank account, us sending the money, you getting it much later in the process. But if you're in Interledger, I promise, the moment I hand over the check, I go to my laptop and send you money on Interledger.
Good. You mentioned one thing, Alex, right? You said, you'll give them a tip, right? Are you going to be there? Yeah. Are you going to be a mentor?
Well, it depends on what you expect of me to mentor. I used to be a developer. Then I went into advocacy, and then when I joined the Interledger Foundation, I still wrote a little bit of code. And even though I'm the CTO, I like to think I could still write code. And I think after Max joined, in the first few months of Max joining, he sat me down and he asked me very politely, Max is a very polite person, but he asked me very politely to stop writing code. because I'm on the road probably maybe 40 weeks out of the year. And so that means I start writing some code, and then Max had to finish writing my code. And it basically felt like him doing my homework. And he said, you know what, just go do your other problems and let us worry about writing code. So I will mentor, but in terms of actually helping with coding, we'll see. I like to think I could be helpful, but in terms of writing code, that's probably a Max or Marian problem rather than me.
Max, Marian, you will both be in Mexico at the hackathon. Yes. Will there be other
Yes.
mentors as well in addition to both of you?
So
Yes, we have
a team. Go ahead, Marian.
Yes, no. We have different type of mentors, and go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, different types of mentor. I'm very good at that. If you need to present at the end, this is how your presentation has more impact. But we have about 40 people from Interledger who are going to mentor and help out at the hackathon. That's developers, designers, technical writers, everybody that works in the technical department at Interledger is going to be there to support the hackathon one way or another.
Last question. What's your advice? And this is, I want each of you to answer, right? What's your advice to first-time participants in an Interledger hackathon? One golden nugget of advice.
I would say to really find out other than having fun, of course, that's the number one rule to all of it. To really hone in on what the problem that you're solving is, and to make sure that you have trained the presentation and you're ready to present, and it's all nice and concise. And yeah, because really, even though unfortunately we can't sit there and see all the, spend an hour or two with each of the groups spending to see what kind of code that they made and what their process was. Of course, we would love that, but again, a lot of time it comes down to the short demo that there is. So just having, really having and bringing a nice problem and how the solution works with that problem, and truly, make it nice and concise. That's my one advice, I would say.
Marian?
I answered the question directly in the chat, but it's like knowing your use case, like understand how to build like the right payment flow, and without how you can integrate like the technology, so like the standard. So I truly believe like this is open. You have all the documentations about JavaScript SDK. We have PHP SDK. We have also a Rust client, and you can use like the technology or the language you feel comfortable developing. So it's just like have an idea, establish like what you want to solve, what will be the problem, and the payment flow you want to integrate with open payments, and with that choosing like your stack. And with the stack we have actually Max is the best developer you can have, and we have like a full like a tutorial about creating the client in Node.js, and I think it's a really good one. So if you have the chance, you can go directly to our YouTube channel. We are running like some polish some details there, but you will have like the full scope about how to integrate open payments in a very simple way.
Great. Alex, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I feel like from my personal experience at hackathons and from running hackathons at Interledger for the past few years, is really think about the problem you're solving and build that. Don't build any of the extra features you've seen in production apps. I feel like we've run a few hackathons at Interledger. 99% of them have a login screen and forgot your password screen. Nobody cares. No, you lose 20 seconds of your demo trying to log in or creating an account, whatever. That's not what your application does. Your application should focus on the payments part. So, you know what? Don't even build the user authentication flow. Just fake it. Nobody cares. Really, nobody cares. Build just the thing you need in order to demonstrate your problem-solving ability for the problem you're solving. Don't worry about all the bells and whistles you see on production applications, because you're not building a production application. You're building a hack over 24 hours. So focus on the things that matter over that 24 hours period. Don't focus on building an application from scratch in 24 hours.
Great. So before we end, Marianne, Max, Alex, anything you want to add to our conversation? Any last minute ideas, recommendations, advice to participants?
So if you're, my last piece of advice is, if you're a student and you feel like you need to get a little bit more hands-on experience, there is an opportunity happening for you from September 12th to September 23rd. If you're anywhere in Mexico State, Mexico City, Aguascalientes, and Oaxaca, there are 4 separate student hackathons happening with the local universities, where we're basically doing the same thing, but with a much smaller group of people and a lot more hands-on mentor training, so that people or students get the chance to be familiar with open payments, so that they can be competitive against professionals at the hackathon in November. If you want a little bit more experience and you're still a student, join one of those hackathons. You will have a unfair advantage in November.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Alex, Marianne, Max. Really, thank you for sharing your expertise, your vision. And I want to thank everybody who joined us today as well, right? And hopefully, right, what we've covered today will just, serve as a driver to help you make a decision about joining the hackathon, Interledger's hackathon. Your student later this month in September, and then leading up to the hackathon in November, right? That will coincide with Interledger's global summits. I do hope that this session today has inspired all of our attendees to explore open payments, to join the Interledger hackathon, and really to become part of Interledger's global community that is, as a mission, shaping the future of finance. Quick reminder, the hackathon in Mexico City will take place November 8th and 9th. And it is your chance as attendees, as developers, as hackers, to build real solutions, connect with developers, and compete for prizes upwards of $5,000. Please stay connected with the Interledger Foundation and with Philo Summit for resources, for updates, and for more information on opportunities to help building and to keep building in this ecosystem. As I said, I'm Andres Fontao from Phino Summit. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hosting and leading conversation with Marianne, with Max, and with Alex, and hope to see everybody at the hackathon in November. Thank you very much.